Are you ready to stop the self-sabotage and create the life you desire? Well, in order for that to happen, you need to break free from the bad beliefs that are holding your success hostage. You need to optimize the stress by turning it into extra energy for success. And those hurtful habits? Well, we need to give that pain a purpose for progress. Welcome to Stop the Self Sabotage and Create the Life You Desire podcast. Have you ever heard somebody say, maybe in a group setting where everybody's there for growth, okay, we're going to take a break from complaining? And then I roll my eyes out loud if I happen to be there because I'm thinking to myself, while you're at it, stop burping and farting, because that's just how effective this is going to be. Complaining is an important and significant psychological component for 3 reasons that we're going to go over. But I want you to keep this in mind. Complaining can keep you safe. Okay, so let's do what's known as successive yes sets and build on this. And what is a successive yes set? That means that if somebody can get you to say yes to something small, they can get you to say yes to something large. When I'm working with someone in a hypnosis session, I ask them to put themselves in a comfortable position. Okay. And then take in a nice, easy breath. As you let it go, allow your eyes to close gently. Now, that's where we started. By the end of this session, now we're doing complex work. Maybe it's allowing a flow of finances in your life to increase. That business partner that you've been dealing with, being able to let them know what their real role is in the business because they haven't really achieved the one that they've moved into. Could it be drawing better boundaries or working with an addiction and now becoming addicted to being clean and sober? Just gives you a few that I've worked with in the last couple of days. Successive yes sets, though, can work in the other direction that will take you into pain and betrayal. Because someone who's a manipulator, I call them cluster Fs because they freak up everything they touch. I also call them POSs. Somebody in a younger generation asked me, is that polyovarian? And I'm like, no, my generation of POS was, well, let's just say that you would use it for your garden of growth if it was appropriately packaged. They are a person of suspect, a person of suspicion. A POS will isolate you and get you to stay quiet over something, thinking that then by the time they get you out into the general public, well, they can go ahead and, do not nice things, and you won't do anything about it. Complaining keeps you safe when you know how to use it to begin to identify what's going on. But we have to start with those steps. So the very first reason for complaining is it allows us to dump temporary emotional states that are causing us stress, tension, emotional flooding, and overwhelm. And then it keeps us from internalizing those states. But if you've experienced something that's known as parentification or being parentified, when as a child you were expected to be an adult in certain roles, you didn't have the ability to bitch, moan, whine, and complain. You were taught to suck it up and make everything okay, which unfortunately will lead to experiences as an adult where you're making everything okay for everybody else, but at your expense, and they're more than happy to allow that to happen. So whenever we need to dump those temporary emotional states, just know that it's just that. It's a temporary way to cope. We certainly don't want it to become habitualized. And if it becomes a pattern, now we got a problem. See, habits are situational. I have a habit of putting up a Christmas tree over the holidays. Well, I didn't last year because I was afraid Thor was going to eat it. But this year I have hope. So a habit is going to be based on maybe the time of year or the people that you're around, but a pattern runs true and through every area of your life. So it's okay to have a dump session. And I'll reach out and I will let one of my girlfriends know, I don't need you to fix this. I just need you to listen. Or maybe I'll say, I would like some insight, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to act on it because I just need to get this out. So we want to be able to dump in a way that is just part-time. It's occasionally. If it turns into a habit, then we know that we're going to be triggered by things in our experience. And if it's a pattern, it's running all the way through. Now, anything that is learned can be relearned. So there is hope, and not deferred hope. Deferred hope is what makes our heart, our spirit sick, because we keep hoping for a different outcome when nothing different is taking place. There's no different action. And many times you will have deferred hope for other people when they're telling you exactly who they are. Okay. The second reason why we complain is that it allows us to connect with others. Community. Now, successive yes set, so we're building here. We want to make sure that we're not setting up a community that is based on problems. We'd like to have a community where it is around designing a life. Problems is our default. That's how we were taught to get through school. If you solved enough problems, you'd get promoted to the next grade. And then your powerful RAS, reticular activating system, says, to be promoted in life, I need to find more problems in people, places, and things. That's an exhausting way to live. There's much difference in a destiny that calls or even pulls you forward whenever you're going, I want to design a life, and I want to design a life based on my brilliance. What's the very best about me? But you know what's the very best about me is the fact that I like to see others succeed. And sometimes I'll offer them the position to do that when they haven't earned it. And so I'm learning how to course correct when they show me that they should not get an additional chance. There needs to be some discernment going on. See, complaining can help us in a community because someone else might have an answer for our challenge. I was complaining to a neighbor last winter. In my area, temperatures got below zero for a number of days, and it had rained and there were ice sheets. And now I'm trying to take out a puppy who was well over 100 pounds wanting to play on the ice. And I was so afraid he was going to hurt himself. And then how was I going to get him to the vet? And I was complaining to a neighbor that the ice melt wasn't working and neither was my shovel. And they went, oh, yeah, I got an answer for you. It's actually like a hoe, and you bring it straight down. It won't destroy your concrete, and it's going to start breaking up the ice. I'll come over and show you how to do it. Now, if I wouldn't have complained, if I would have just said, oh, I'm always supposed to see the positive. Again, roll my eyes out loud. There is no positive. The brain thinks in either pain or progress.
And in complaining, we can give our pain a purpose for progress when we're doing it in a way where we're seeking out community to assist us. So, complaining can help us build community. You just want to make sure that you're not making friends with people who want to sit around for those bitch, moan, whine, and complain sessions constantly. And then the very last one. Complaining, it can keep you safe when you use it as a way to reflect and go, oh, I'm complaining, and maybe it's showing up a bit more frequently because there's an action I need to take because I'm not safe. Okay, I'll give you an example of this. Last April, there was a clerical error on a piece of property that was transferred to me from my ex-husband that was a result of our divorce 2 years previous. And the county in which I reside made a mistake, and they put my name on the deed to my property, yay, and then they put my name on the deed to his property. I didn't find out about it until he went into the hospital, and there were some of his family members that were moving his stuff out of his house. And so I'm curious because we lived right next door to each other. And I went over there and I went, what's up? And they're like, he's sick. He's in the hospital. And I'm like, that's too bad. What are you going to do? And they're like, well, we were going to sell the house to be able to fund his care, but we can't do that because you stole it from him and you put your name on it. Now, these people already knew me. And so they knew that they could weaponize my giving heart against me because I spent the next 30, 40 minutes in an absolute emotional breakdown trying to explain to them, this is the first I had heard of it. That is not what happened. Oh my gosh, I'm going to make it right. And then finally, after about 40 minutes, one of the people in the group evidently couldn't watch me anymore do this and said, hey, we know it was a clerical error. Excuse me, what? That took me a little bit to process because it had been a while since I had been around sharks. Now, what do I mean by that? Shelley Campbell, and that's Shelley with a C, wrote an amazing book many, many years ago called The Wealthy Spirit. And it is a year of devotions that really cause you to think. And I loved how she categorized people. She said people are either going to be sharks or tuna or dolphins. Sharks go around eating. They're eating machines. Right now, the buzzword in the general public is narcissism. And most people don't know that there's two types of narcissists, that there is the grandiose, who's an extrovert, wants to take all the attention. And then there's the closet, also known as the victim narcissist. And that's when they will play on your emotions and they're more of an introvert and they just need you to help them. And then you wind up giving them too many chances. I will say I have had the unique pleasure, and it was a pleasure to finally put a label on it, of my ex-husband receiving the diagnosis of closet and or vulnerable narcissist. Very rarely do you get a diagnosis for these people in your life because they don't ever think anything's wrong with them. They cannot reflect the way you and I do. That's your first mistake with them. You think a shark can reflect on them being a shark and then change. No, they can't. They don't have the same sense of self you do. And there are some things that you can learn that you will never lose the ability because it brings out something in you. It brings out an awareness. Riding a bike is one of those. You can ride a bike as a kid and then 50 years later, go back, get on a bike. You're going to be really wobbly, but it's not going to be very long before you're going to be able to accomplish it again. Complex math, unless you had an innate ability for math, is something that you'll go through in school and then you'll forget how to do it. because it wasn't bringing out an aspect of your brilliance. I'm going to tell you right now, dealing with sharks, no, this is relearning every time you're around them and chum gets thrown in the water and then they take a bite out of your backside. Yeah. Uh, so don't be surprised when they catch you off guard. Okay. Now, narcissists can be seen as being surrounded by what's known as flying monkeys. And yeah, kind of like tuna, who are always the victim, but they want to make sure to keep the shark focused on the chum so the shark doesn't turn around and use them as sushi. And so the tuna, oh my goodness, yeah, that they're always kind of weak and will latch on to someone else that is going to save them, and it's known as the drama trauma triangle. So you got a victim, and to have a victim, there's a bully, and then if that you cannot have attention on each other like that, you need to triangulate. Now you're going to bring in a hero or a savior, but victims get tired of being saved, and then they wind up turning the savior into their bully, which might explain to some of you the reason why you thought you were assisting someone and then they turned on you. And you're like, I don't think they're a narcissist. No, maybe they're just a tuna. They're a professional victim. Okay, so you've got sharks, you've got tuna, but then, as Shelley says, you got the dolphins. Dolphins like hanging out in pods with other dolphins, and their life is about play and community and enjoying themselves, and that's what you're looking for. Every once in a while, a dolphin may find itself in an experience with a shark. Dolphins don't go looking for sharks, but they can find themselves in an environment with a shark. Now, a dolphin will be able to recognize its arch enemy right off the bat. For us, because the narcissist, the shark, and at points the victim are so good at camouflage, we're not quite sure. So this is when we use reflection. Like whenever I reflected back on that incident where I was accused of things that those people knew that I couldn't do, I was like, okay, if it happens once, now I'm aware. If it happens twice, I'm pretty sure I'm dealing with a suspect, a POS, okay? So in July, I discovered that there was a bank account that my ex had not closed down that still had my name on it, and I wasn't getting the statements on it. Because a change of address had been done, and part of my mail was getting rerouted to somebody else. And then I found out by accident about the account and where it was only after the credit union notified me and the previous notices that they had sent about this account being overdrawn. Well, I never received any, and now it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars overdrawn. And because my name is still on the account, yeah, I was responsible for it. And now I'm paying attention. And then on the third time is when there's going to be consequences for the shark. Remember the scene in Jaws whenever they're like, oh, you're hungry, you'd like to eat things? Here, have this oxygen tank, and then we're going to take a bullet and we're going to blow you up. So the third time came about where information that could only be discovered by my private bank statement was then used to file a claim with a company, and the person going, I'm entitled to this property, and this is the reason why. Okay. Yeah. So the fact that you got all worked up with the chum in the water led you to decide to go after something that's going to be your downfall. You know when else this happened? Goliath, the story of David and Goliath. The very sword that Goliath pointed at David and said, I'm going to take you out, is the very sword that David used to cut off Goliath's head. So complaining can keep you safe when the third round you're going, oh, there's an action that needs to happen here because I'm paying consequences for someone else's bad behavior. Because we can complain about the weather and we can complain about the stock market and we can complain about politicians. And all of that are empty experiences because they're not within our day-to-day control. But when you find yourself complaining about the same experience that you can do something about, maybe it's a coworker and how they're always taking credit. Remember, they'll do it in private and then they think they can get away with it in public. Maybe that's when you say, oh, okay, hey, you know what? You and I really need to go to our supervisor and have a chat about division of responsibilities. Or maybe it's with your partner who continues to repeat the same bad behavior and all of your pleading has fallen on deaf ears. Maybe it's like, you know what? So if you were in my shoes and I was continuing to harp on this and not follow through, what consequence would you set? What consequence, if it were me, what consequence would you set? Well, I wouldn't have one. I would just continue to, no. No, we have to start looking at consequences. So I'd just like to have your input. What would be your top 3 consequences if this behavior continued? It's a great conversation to also have with your teenagers. But sometimes you need support as well as additional suggestions. This is where I say, hey, let's have a complimentary coaching call with each other and see if I'm a good fit, because I will give you suggestions that you will be able to use with same day results. It won't be resolution of the challenge because you've got a pattern that it's wrapped in. But we will get you started on the road to progress. And then you can decide if we're a good fit in moving forward. Okay. So complaining can keep you safe when you do it for reflection in a way that's going to lead to implementation for impact, results. So until we get together again, how's the weather where you're at?